This episode of Translogic accelerates through your screen on 3 groundbreaking electric motorcycles. Lightning's LS218 dominates with speed, while wheelies are plentiful on mission motorcycles offering. Even the old guard, Harley-Davidson, is dipping its toes into high voltage territory. Welcome to Translogic, I'm Jonathon Buckley. We're pretty firmly on the electric motorcycle bandwagon, but every time we approach this topic, the same questions seem to arise. Battery life, performance, range, and price. Well, today, we seem to have found a company that have an answer to at least one of these questions.
The familiar whir of an electric motorcycle. It is something that I'm starting to get used to now that I've had the fortune to ride a few of these. Interesting to be sitting on an electric bike that is in fact the most powerful motorcycle that I've ever sat on. This is where the future lies. People have always said that there's a tipping point with motorcycles. Once they start winning races, that's when we're going to get mass adoption.
So I'm finally here in the office place, I should say, or the workshop of Lightning Motorcycles with Richard Hatfield, the founder and CEO. Tell us about this, the result of all of your hard work.
This is the Lightning LS218, the fastest production motorcycle that you can buy and ride to work, and it's electric. There's been basically 10 years of development of electric motorcycles compared to 100 years of evolution of internal combustion engine bikes, so I think we're at the beginning of where these can go.
Was it winning Pikes Peak that got it all the attention?
When we set land speed records, that created a momentum. When we won race championships, that was, momentum. But the big goal we set and the biggest achievement was racing against the top gas bikes and winning.
Bonneville on the salt flats.
We went through the timing lights at 218 miles an hour.
That's incredible, 218 miles per hour from an electric motor.
Yes.
And just looking at the components, I mean, you've spared no expense. You've got all of the top stuff, Marchesini rims, you've got Öhlins suspension, Brembo brakes. I mean, you really have thrown the kitchen sink at this bike, haven't you?
We have, and it's, 40,000 is a lot, or 38,000 for a motorcycle. But again, this is a bike that a good rider could take to Pikes Peak or take to a racing event and win first overall.
Now, when we look at the LS218, we know that it was built for performance. But when I found out that this bike was pushing 200 horsepower at the wheel, that's not at the crank, that's at the wheel, and then around 170 foot-pounds of torque, I was actually getting surprisingly nervous. But what's it like as a street bike? And that's, I guess, why I'm out here testing it today. It's not super comfy. It doesn't have a super cushy seat. The suspension's kind of hard, but that's all completely forgivable just for the sensation that you get when you screw open the throttle. Full throttle! Oh my God!
We all know weight is the enemy of the battery in today's world. How have you gone about bringing that weight down to, is it 495 pounds, which is, comparable to anything else on the road right now?
It's been a lot of the focus is, how do we use all the bodywork's carbon, the clip-on bars are carbon, the fasteners are titanium. So we've done finite element analysis on virtually every component and worked it down to the point where we could get the weight comparable.
Was there ever a thought of maybe making a bike that has an interchangeable battery pack?
We've looked at that, but it adds weight to the bike, 30, 40, 50 pounds. Yeah, so we're doing, everything we can to get the weight down. And right now it seems like a better choice, to charge the batteries quickly.
And let's do wheelie test now. Oh no, there she goes. Oh wow. That was half throttle. I'm starting to feel what the bike might actually be capable of here. You turn the throttle and it just keeps pulling and pulling and pulling. You don't have to shut off to change gear. the torque stays the whole way through. It's something that takes a little bit of getting used to, but I like it.
In the pipeline, there is somewhat of a, let's call it a 600cc version of the LS218
Yes.
coming out for the everyman.
Yes.
Is that kind of like the Tesla model where we start out with a no-holds-bar premium product with everything thrown at it, high price range, and then moving down from there?
It is, yeah. It's much easier to start at a high-performance vehicle and work down into more mid-performance vehicles. You know, I think this is the beginning of the level of adoption we're going to see in a lot of other areas and in bikes. So, you know, when does it really take off? There's a lot of factors that play into that. You know, we're probably one of the few groups of people that wake up in the morning and say a small prayer that gasoline prices go up.
I love that this company, Lightning Motorcycles, they're actually playing with the big boys now. And the big boys are actually, I'd be surprised if they're not just a little bit nervous for what this means for motorcycling and the future of motorcycling. As I say that, my battery has just stopped working. All right, that's not cool. Oh, it's alive again. Interesting. I guess it just needed a reset. Kind of like when your iPhone freezes, I guess. That's exactly what just happened here. Let's see. So I've gone from having 0 power. Oh, it's alive again.
Unfortunately, this was just the first of a few technical issues that really cut down on our saddle time. But I guess some kinks are to be expected with a bike as ambitious as this.
Well, we didn't get to do 218 miles an hour today, but that's not really the point. The point is that electric motorcycles are moving ahead in leaps and bounds, and now they're not only playing with, but they're winning against their gas-powered counterparts. We find that very exciting.
The surprising Harley-Davidson LiveWire is coming up, but first, Mission Motorcycles. Is it going to handle? How much power am I going to have? Can I do wheelies? You know, things like this.
Could you do a wheelie?
Autoblog, the ultimate automotive resource. From the latest vehicle reviews, shopping advice, and ownership tips, to helpful apps, community forums, and photo sharing. Autoblog, where you can research, shop, and share everything on wheels.
Superbike technology over the last few decades has jumped ahead in leaps and bounds with incredible offerings from both Japan and Europe. But could the next potential game changer not only be electric, but come from a place that was least expected, the United States? And that's why we're here with the Mission RS to see what she's made of.
Riding any kind of motorcycle in Northern California on a day like today is going to be spectacular. But when you get to ride around on a Mission RS, well, it makes the experience just that much more special. And you'll notice I'm talking with my hands a little bit. Well, that's because I don't have a clutch. Now, you might think that sounds a little bit boring. What that does is it allows you to focus on your riding. Able to line up my corners a lot better, so that the whole riding experience is just, it's kind of blissful.
So we finally made it back to Mission headquarters with the man that started it all, the founder, the CEO and the president of Mission Motorcycles, Mark SEEGER. Where did this idea come from?
I mean, honestly, it came from people like myself wanting something that we just couldn't buy. You know, high-end electric vehicles have been around. We wanted the same experience on our bikes, and I couldn't buy one, and my team couldn't buy one, so we decided to design and build one.
I have to say, I was skeptical going into it. I've been a biker for many, many years. So, you know, is it going to handle? How much power am I going to have? Can I do wheelies? You know, things like this.
Could you
do
a wheelie?
I heard. Really good wheelies on it. But all those questions got answered today. But the RS is your top of the line model. I mean, the version I rode today goes for around 58,000, I believe.
It does. Did you think it performed very well?
I would say, yeah. Getting up to, you know, 0 60, 0 100. Yeah, you could absolutely feel the power going up there, and it was comparable to pretty much anything else that I've ridden in that class on the road today. The BMW S1000RR, you've got Aprilia's offerings, and you go all the way up to, say, the Ducati 1199R.
We will take all those motorcycles head-to-head. We're not shifting. You open that throttle, you constant acceleration. Secondly, we have more torque at the low end than any bike on the market today. So when you look at our bike, is it expensive? It is. We're trying to bring the price down as quick as we can. That said, you have to way overspend that price on a comparative gas bike to come even close, and you still won't make it.
All right, let's talk about numbers. Okay, so it's fully electric. This is the $60,000 Mission RS, so it's running 17 kilowatt hours. It's got about 163 horsepower, but that's at the wheel, so that's comparable to just about any other superbike on the market today, and it's making 130 pound-feet of torque.
Electric motors have been around longer than internal combustion engines have been around. So the benefit is that when you have one part that's just spinning, it's not pistons moving up and down, explosions, valves, heat, fluids, you can design that to literally never break.
Yeah.
And that's the benefit.
How does that affect handling as well, without all these moving parts and inertia happening inside?
Phenomenal, because what our motorcycle designers were able to do is calculate where is the best point to have the center of gravity, kind of somewhere between your knees, right? On a normal bike, you have fuel sloshing around, you have pistons going up and down, and all this other stuff happening. Your center of gravity is constantly shifting around, which is not very good. It destabilizes the vehicle. Ours literally doesn't change.
Yeah.
So it's the most stable vehicle you could possibly ever build. So that was the easy part. Now we have to make it go really, really far. So a lot of our work went into getting the performance right. We said, all right, well, we're going to maintain that performance that you just spoke about, the one that you experienced today, and add to that 140 or more miles of range.
So the bike I was riding today was the RS.
That's
We've got
right.
the R model sitting here behind us right now as we speak. What are the differences between the two?
Two differences.
Yep.
They look slightly different. Slightly different industrial design, a little bit more aggressive, a lot more carbon fiber work. And then the components, which is the same brand, are just slightly down spec.
But now there's going to come in three options. You've got three battery configurations.
Low,
You've got
medium, and high, that's right.
So 12 kilowatt hour, 15 kilowatt hour, and 17 kilowatt hour.
That's right.
Okay, now the price points of that starting at around about 32 for the 12 kilowatt
That's right.
hour.
Yep.
And then moving on up from there.
Level 2 charging station, you can probably get it down to about 47, 48 minutes is the best we've ever seen.
Yep.
We also designed into the batteries direct DC to DC charging that allows them to be charged in a couple of minutes.
Wow, yeah, because we could have done with that today. We actually did run out of power today, and it was one of those situations where I was like, for the first time I suffered range anxiety. I was looking at it, and because we were filming today, we were giving it a fair bit of, you know, a bit of going. So we did end up actually experiencing the range anxiety that everyone talks about today. We were like, are we going to have to go home? Where do we charge it at? We found a charging station. We plugged it in while we had lunch, and, you know, by the time we finished lunch, we had another 50%. So that was kind of handy. Useful.
Yeah, and that's the other thing. And then lastly, you talked about the head-up display and the onboard, what we call the telematics, right? The dashboard. You know, that's really where you want to look at a vehicle and say, look, your consumer today, particularly a luxury consumer, is going to be expecting iPhone-like experiences on their TV, on their computer, on their phones. Why not on a $30,000 motorcycle? Because we built a completely different kind of motorcycle than has ever existed, we were forced to redesign the bike literally from the wheels on up. And so we had the capability to say, well, what is lacking in a traditional motorcycle experience? So we decided to just build this bike for this year. At the end of the day, we want to make this motorcycle as accessible as we humanly possibly can.
So there you have it. I've been lucky enough to spend a full day in the saddle of the Mission RS on these gorgeous Northern California roads, and I have to say that I am genuinely impressed with this bike. Not only is it just stunning to look at, but it's an exhilarating ride as well. It has heaps of power, it handles well, but as is the case with a lot of EVs, I think the battery technology has to get better, and the prices still need to come down. Harley-Davidson's most futuristic motorcycle to date is coming up. In Harley-Davidson's 111-year history, they've stayed tried and true to what they do best, producing large, loud, highway cruising bikes. But some critics say that they lack innovation, that Harley-Davidson's stuck in the past. Well, that could all change with their surprising foray into the electric world with Project LiveWire. So I'm finally out on the LiveWire. I've been excited about this bike ever since I first saw hints of this on the interweb. First thing you notice when you walk up to it is just how good the fit and finish is on this bike. And for a prototype, it's the kind of build quality that you'd expect from a major manufacturer like Harley-Davidson. So obviously this is a future concept for Harley, and it's employing all this new technology. But what's it like as a motorcycle, as a real world motorcycle? It's got the regenerative braking, so when you come into the corner, you shut off the throttle. You do have that bit of engine braking, which is nice for those that are used to regular gas powered bikes. So you've got that start to slow you down as soon as you shut it off. More and more I ride electric motorcycles, the more I appreciate just the little advantages that you have, which is, on a hot day like today in Southern California, you've got no heat coming out from the engine underneath you. You've got no clutch again, which allows you just to relax and cruise around one-handed like I am now. So I'm with Jen Hoyer from Harley-Davidson's Project LiveWire. One of my first concerns when I heard about the LiveWire was, they're going to get some pushback.
There's been, both camps, right? What are you doing to our gas-powered motorcycles? And we are never going to go away from those bikes. We've been around for 111 years, and we are bound and determined to have another 111 years ahead of us. Strategically, what do we need to stay in the space of motorcycling for the future? And definitely electric vehicles is going to be one of those things for us.
So that's something, obviously you want to stay relevant with a newer generation. Are you trying to expand your market?
Actually, the past 6 years, we have owned market share in the United States of young adults, for women, for African Americans, for Hispanics, and for our core customer, which is a white male over 35. Absolutely, this is another way for us to reach out and make sure that that customer base is continuing to grow. When we brought Project LiveWire out to the public to get this feedback on what it means for Harley-Davidson to bring an electric vehicle to the market, we've just been overwhelmed with response from all sorts of people on what that would look like for us.
I'm in range mode right now, which means it's limited, I think, to 60 miles an hour. A little bit less power, a little less throttle, but that should give me the extended range to go a little bit further. When it comes to performance numbers, 74 horsepower, 52 foot-pounds of torque, it's right there. How has the response been to the performance of the bike?
They love the torquiness. And then, of course, one of the other major differences is the single-speed transmission, right? Yeah. So it's clutchless.
Now we're in power mode, which gives us half the range. Let's see if it gives us double the power. Oh! And it does! What a difference! Wow, screw the range. I want the power. Well, let's talk about the design, because it's beautiful. It's for someone who likes more of the futury, sporty looking side of things. You've employed some new technologies as well. You've got the all aluminum frame that takes up next to no weight as well. Is it correct? 14 pounds?
Yeah, about 14 pounds. Yeah, so from the beginning, the engineering team and the styling team came together to say, what is this going to look like for us? This motorcycle, we wanted that nod to the future, right? But also a nod to the history, right? So that longitudinally mounted engine is still the centerpiece, like all our motorcycles are. The engine is still the centerpiece.
Now, a lot of Harley enthusiasts are probably going to be upset with the lack of noise that it makes. And I enjoy the sound of a regular combustion engine as well. But there's something to be said for this electric whir.
What's been the feedback about that? Obviously, sound is a big part of Harley. What was the thought behind the sound of the engine?
Interestingly enough, they don't necessarily hear the big rumble of the engine and the exhaust. So it's a different type of riding experience. It's not hearing the rumble, but they've been excited. That's what I mean. The feedback has been, oh my gosh, I can hear everything that's going on around me.
One thing I've really enjoyed whilst riding the LiveWire is the display. It's an LCD display, it's touch screen, and I have touch-capable gloves, which makes things a little bit easier to navigate. I don't have to take my gloves off every time. But it's super clear. It's a really bright day. It's the middle of the day. The sun's high in the sky, but I can see everything clearly.
There's been so much positive feedback now, and it has been a few months since it's been out. Has Harley changed its perspective now and saying this is something that we're going to do?
We for sure we're going to be taking it internationally. So next year we're taking it to Europe. Get the feedback from our customers. What do they want? What do they think the range should be? What will they pay for it? So that when and if we're at a point of bringing this out to market, it is a no excuses motorcycle that they have told us they're excited about and that they want.
It'd be nice to see this thing actually make it to production. I hope it's not just a flash in the pan. Range is not where it needs to be. 50 to 60 miles range is just simply put not enough. Then you've got price. If you get a bike that looks like this, performs like this, and you can get it for under 20 grand, pretty quickly you're gonna see a lot of these on the road.
Does Harley have an idea, obviously it's a long way away yet, but of the pricing structure of a bike like this? Notoriously, electric bikes are more expensive than their gas-powered counterparts.
That's part of the whole feedback that we want. What are customers willing to pay, and what will they get out of the motorcycle? So making sure that the price point matches the features and benefits of the bike, and making sure that it will sell. So we don't have that, as we mostly know, because the technology is rapidly evolving, and obviously one of those things that we hope will be prices of batteries being able to come down.
Well, there you have it, the Harley-Davidson LiveWire. It's a fantastic example of what a company like that can do when it comes to innovation and thinking up new products. Granted, this is only a prototype at this stage, but of all of the things that we test, this would be surprising if it didn't make it to market in the next few years, just considering the sheer amount of effort and research and marketing that Harley has put into this thing. For Translogic, I'm Jonathon Buckley. We'll catch you next time.